What's good, people? What's good? Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We are we are clearly we are clearly on the positive right now. We are clearly on the positive. Thank you. Looking at those numbers. This is exciting. Let's keep it going. And one thing I will say is like the change has started, so like all that stuff we talked about, all that stuff like that we talked about in the earlier. The thing is, history's been written and rewritten so many times. So a lot of what you've learned, just try to take it in stride and understand that it's up to you, especially if you're a man of any age, to be honest, but especially a young man, because as a young man, you got two options. You either get out, or you face the landscape and try to operate within that. So I encourage you to face that landscape and try to operate within that. And we'll get into this one, and I'm trying to do it with y'all, so let's get into this one. So what are the relevant data for your situation? Remember, we started this off as the healthcare network, so I'll just say that that's kind of how we started this off, and I'm trying to continue that. So what are the relevant data for your situation? So these days, one of the biggest questions I think you can ask yourself is the question stated in the title of this video. So the meaning of and context behind the word data has expanded a lot in the past generation and a half, so around like 35 years. Since the rise of personal and cloud computing, data has gained new importance, perhaps even inflated importance, but we won't get into that just now. We'll talk about that in later videos. But remember that there has always been data. I'll say that again. There has always been data. No matter what, don't forget that. There's always been data. These days, however, data is becoming more valuable, or rather, people will realize the value of it more and more if they haven't already. And at this point in 2023, people have. But I'll explain what I mean a little bit, and I'll explain what I mean more by that. So big business and governments have been playing with big data for a while now, but we've reached a point where even their computers and their servers cannot process it all and use it to make the most beneficial decisions for the maximum amount of people. And I'll just leave that. So this is simply because there are far too many data generating things now. There are way more computers than there even were 10 years ago, and there are way more people who are using these computers to upload and share data. So these data are generally representations and snapshots of life in different forms, whether it be text, photo, video, or a game or something. And this is gonna way expand, especially given like what I hope to start creating. This is gonna expand a lot. But these are generally representations and snapshots of life. Remember that it's not reality. It's just representations and snapshots of life, and that's all it really will ever be in terms of like the word data. Reality and these data generating things, like, they're not the same. Like, you get a representation of reality, but you don't necessarily get reality. And oftentimes you get a representation of old realities. So not even the present reality. By its very nature, most of these data is representation of old realities, and sometimes like very frequent representations of old realities, but that gets technical and I don't want to get into all that technicality with you, but frequency is important. And I'll just leave that there. Frequency is important. But one of the biggest challenges that we face today is sifting through that data to allow us to make decisions for our own lives, A lot of this data is contextual and floating around on different computers and different software programs. So depending on how you want to define it, there could be data elsewhere as well. Kind of like I said earlier, what we think of as data is going to continue to expand, but it's going to continue expanding within your own realm, not necessarily in terms of the big data that we've come to know as a term over the past 15 years, if that makes sense. But ultimately, there is a need for more processing away from the big computer servers in the center. They call this edge computing these days. It's a classic computing problem, though. This has happened before, and it will happen again, most likely. But in this day and age, this is where we're at. And also, I will say this before the end of the video. The data you don't have is, I say probably in the script, but I'm pretty sure the data you don't have is more important than what you do have. Technically, that's just my opinion. And I do have a book right there, authored by David J. Hand, called Dark Data. And I need to finish that book. So the data that you don't have is more important than the data that you do have. But you do not need to rush to process it. The thing is, you'll just never know most things. And that's just how it always has. I don't even know if that's how it always has been. I don't have that data. But that's as far as I know. That's how it's always been for me. I'm 26 now. The more I learn, the more I realize, day to day, I don't know, and I'll never know most stuff. So you do not need to rush to process all this data. That's just my opinion, though. Some people are trying to rapid fire process this stuff, but I'm not. So try to process it efficiently. That's my opinion. Try to process that data efficiently. Don't just rapid fire try to process it, unless you can, man. The thing is, it's up to you. That's the ultimate thing, is just up to you. And finish one process before moving on to the next one. That's also what I'll say. But ultimately, I'm talking for me, and I'm saying this just to make you aware of the landscape. Ultimately, it's up to you. So, also, I'll kind of end with this. The concept of memory is interesting. Random access memory, secondary memory. That whole concept is interesting, but we'll discuss that more fully in another video for another day. So healthcare network times 3. There you go. Healthcare network times 3. I'll finish it off with that. And alright, I am out for now. Peace out, and let's kind of keep this trajectory going. I like where it's going, so let's keep it up. Alright, peace out, guys. Stay healthy.